Dan il-video se nagħmlu bl-Ingliż għax hemm ħafna barranin illi hemm bżonn illi jkunu jafu x'qed nippruvaw nagħmlu għaw Malta. So se nagħmlu bl-Ingliż. Grazzi. A person who has insulin-dependent diabetes, known as type 1. Unfortunately, type 1 diabetics are definitely at a higher risk. Studies regarding the incubation period of COVID-19 have shown that it may be between 4 and 17 days. 98%, 99% of patients develop symptoms within 14 to 15 days. There is 1% that goes even beyond 17%. But if we take 14, 15 days as a maximum incubation period, we will be 99% correct. If a patient is about to die, I think if a patient is about to die, then probably you've lost the battle. A patient who is in extreme situation, in my view, should be given plasma from a recovered person. A person who recovers from the disease should, in my view, this is my opinion, should offer to give his blood. From the blood, plasma is taken, and the plasma, which is the white part of the blood, contains strong antibodies against the virus. In China, a number of patients improved. They were on the throes of death, and they improved when they were given this plasmapheresis. Septicemia is a major condition, and in itself can kill you. So yes, they are. Extremely unlikely. You can be swimming in the pool or in the sea. It's extremely unlikely because the water and salt, either salt water or fresh water with chlorine, is likely to wash it away. I believe that the policy regarding infected people is that they stay in isolation. If you stay with them, then it means you can't go home. You would be in isolation with them. You'd be treated as if you actually have the condition. They are reasonably accurate. Testing kits vary, depends where they're made. Obviously, they're new. Testing kits work by analyzing, it's called polymerase chain reaction. They analyze whether parts of that virus is present or not. The first difficulty is getting the right swab. In other words, when they take a swab from your nose and from the inside of your mouth and so on, it has to be properly taken. That's the first question. The test itself depends on the manufacturing. At the moment, I wouldn't trust anything made in China, to be honest. There was a lot of controversy. For many weeks, many professionals were denying the fact that this virus can be airborne. What does airborne mean? Airborne is different from droplet. When I'm talking, droplets are coming out of my mouth. When I'm coughing, more droplets are coming out of my mouth, and they're traveling, or sneezing, and they're traveling a greater distance. But the droplets, depending on their size, will settle on surfaces, and they can travel only so far, normally between 1 and 2 meters. Unlikely that they travel further than 2 meters. A droplet is, sometimes when you're sitting in your sitting room and you see a rate of sunlight coming in, you will see tiny dust particles floating in the air. When a virus is airborne, it settles on these tiny dust particles. If you have, for instance, if you are on a cruise liner where the air is being recirculated, or on an airplane, that's what happens. The air is sucked into the machine and it's pumped back. So you're receiving recirculated air. So that is why where you have enclosed spaces like cruise liners, you see a massive number of people becoming infected. In practice, this means that if somebody's been in the office for a short time and they leave, and there's air conditioning or air being recirculated, and there is no ventilation, yes, you can get it from the air inside that office. There is no restriction. If you are a younger person and not at high risk, you can go outside for a walk by yourself. If you're an older person, you should restrict yourself to doing the essentials. If you need to go to the bank, if you need to go to the supermarket, something like that. And the less time you stay outside, the better for you. You're doing it for yourself. COVID-19 typically starts in different ways. One of the commonest ways that we see, especially in young people, they start smelling food in an unpleasant manner, unattractive. This is, we believe, because they have a strong defensive system and they manage to control the virus and keep it in the roof of their mouth and in their nose, preventing it from coming down. Their antibodies there are so strong that they confine the virus to the upper respiratory tract. So they are unlikely to get pneumonia, which is consolidation, solidification of the lungs further down. So that's one of the signs, a change in their sense of smell. They don't like the smell of food. The taste of food changes because taste and smell are intertwined. And then they can have a dry cough. People can have a dry cough, not much sputum. Not like when you have a cold, when it's very runny nose. No, you may have just an itchy nose. This goes on for about 4 or 5 days. Some people actually have diarrhea. If it goes into their gastrointestinal tract, they present with diarrhea or severe abdominal cramp. The symptoms vary from the virus and the individual, and the fight that is going on between the virus and your body. Muscle aches, like any viruses, they cause muscle aches. One of the commonest causes of death is viral myocarditis. The virus attacks the heart. It attacks the heart. So you get swelling of the heart and the heart fails. Maybe a strong heart, but it can fail. This is what they're seeing in England now. So I would suggest that rest is part of the treatment. Don't do any severe exercise if you think you're ill. Prison tests take a few hours, maybe 4 or 5 hours to finish. Obviously, they do them in batches. So it may take you 8 or 10 hours when you submit a test for it to be involved in a particular batch. They do about 3 batches a day. But now more modern tests are coming out that will give you a result in half an hour. And soon there will be a pinprick test which will give you a result in minutes. There's another test coming which will show you whether you have antibodies and therefore you are resistant to the virus. That's coming out soon. I believe that public transport is one of the most dangerous places for viruses. Admittedly, we stop people standing up, holding on to straps and so on, but there's still a confined space with a large number of people. I believe that public transport should stop for about 2 weeks, and smaller groups, if you're working, say, in a construction site, and it's the same group of people, half a dozen people are going to the same construction site, you're spending the day with them, then it's like a family. You're containing yourself to a family, not to a busload of people. We're telling people we don't want more than 2 of you. walking together in the street. So I put 20 on a bus or 30 on a bus. All viruses survive in the freezers. Viruses are immune to cold. You don't damage them. We can find a virus in ice. You can freeze it. When it warms up, it will come back to life. I'll talk about life in a minute. But they can't take heat. So if somebody spits on the ground, for instance, the heat from the sun on a hot, warm day will kill the virus maybe in 20 minutes. Viruses are not classified as being live. This is why I need to explain this. They are tiny beings, if you like, organisms, almost like parasites. This particular one is made of single strands. It's not DNA, it's a single strand of RNA. It's tiny. It's 0.1 of a micron. So it's not even a DNA, it's a single strand of RNA. But we don't classify it as live because it cannot multiply on its own. It can't replicate. The only way it can replicate is when it invades your body, enters your cells, and utilizes your cells to replicate its own RNA. This is why it causes so much damage at your expense. We don't need to swab the whole population of Malta, I think, at this stage. What we need to swab and test, essentially, the testing. Who do we need to test? At the moment, there's no need to test nuns and monks in monasteries. We don't need to do that. But we need to start testing, our frontline workers, all the people who work in our health services. So I would start by Mater Dei. Make sure that all the staff are not infected. And if they're infected, they have to be isolated if they're infected and treated if necessary. And they only go back to work once they show that they are negative twice. I would then also test the patients because they can reinfect your staff. And you have to isolate patients. We've had cases where a patient with a broken leg went into hospital and got COVID-19. So now she has two problems, her broken leg and COVID-19. Unfortunately, in this country, we didn't have Wuhan market, neither did we have an institute of virology. The epicenter for our condition has been the hospital. So we have to make sure that the hospital, Mater Dei, becomes virus-free. The next set of tests must be in our old people's homes. All staff, we have about 40 old people's homes. Old people are vulnerable, and we have to make sure that all the staff there, we have to have a baseline, are shown to be negative. I believe that all vegetables should be washed in any case, whether you have COVID or coronavirus situation, you have to wash them because there are several organisms that exist in water that can cause damage. So running water, a good, clean and running water should be adequate. I've already worked out the calculations on how long do I expect this to go on. We need another 12 weeks. 7 June is where I've put the cutoff point. From then, we review the situation, then we can relax these measures. From now till the 7 June, 7 Giugno, a memorable day for the Maltese. Then we may start to relax. Now, it depends also on the weather, of course. If we start having hot days, you have to remember the virus is susceptible to heat and UV light. Look at the weather forecast on your television and watch UV light. That will be a vital factor. If you see the temperature and the UV light going up, it means we may have a breakthrough on the virus. Not really. If you suffer from mild asthma, make sure you use your preventer treatment, which contains 250 or 500 of corticosteroids, and you should be safe. Well, this is a difficult situation for everybody. And unfortunately, in this country, there is political pressure. We find that the leaders of our major political parties are talking about arrears of the utility bills. Whereas I'm talking about plasmapheresis, we're on a different wavelength altogether. I think it's a difficult job. It's, in the circumstances, I think she's doing extremely well.